maybe it's hopefully past. A Howard Schultz moment. He, of course, is the former CEO of Starbucks, and he released a book this week entitled something to the effect of From the Ground Up, How America Can Be Really Great Again, or something to that effect. The ground up being, of course, a play on the fact that he made his money by selling coffee. And we were talking about, well, there's two things that struck me this week. One is you mentioned Mike Bloomberg, the billionaire who's already contemplated jumping into the Democratic race. And I thought it was very funny when Bloomberg tweeted out, like, hey, I refused in 2016 to run because I didn't want to help Trump win. And he's basically saying, like, you can't cut ahead of me in the self-aggrandizement department. I'm a bigger billionaire than you are. And if I stood down, despite my massive ego and narcissism, you have to step down too, buddy. This is not appropriate. And to watch these two aging white guys fight over how much their money makes them eligible to be president, sort of fascinating. And you mentioned that, it's driven by consultants. This is the other thing that strikes me about how much it speaks to our moment. In addition to this guy jumping in and having all of his critiques focused at, right, basically a band of people who he thinks, anyways, are associated with Democrats, or maybe they're never Trumpers, right? Because he wants to appeal to these people by saying the Democrats are being too radical. And I think in his mind, he actually thinks there's a chance he's going to run for president and that he could do well and maybe even win. But he hasn't quite accepted the fact that all he would do would probably be helping Donald Trump win. But we talked about his advisors. One of them is Steve Schmidt, one of these never Trumpers. The other, a big one, Bill Burton from the Obama campaign. And, the funny thing about this is you got Howard Schultz out there and he's talking about he's running because our politics are broken, ostensibly because there are people on the right and people on the left and they disagree. And,
right.
But the irony is to the extent that our politics are broken, because I happen to believe that politics are actually a function of disagreement. That's why you have politics, is because different people have different ideas about what should be going on in society, and politics is the way to resolve that. To the extent that our politics are broken, and that to me strikes me as politics working the way they should. To the extent that they're broken, it is really, in many respects, a function of the wealth inequality that this billionaire, who on a whim decides he wants to run for president and has the ability to command basically the nation's biggest media outlets for a couple of days, particularly in this environment, I think that's a sign of what's wrong, what's broken with our politics. The other thing I would suggest that's broken with our politics is the idea that you've got these high-paid, high-priced political consultants who are, egging this guy on or just yesing him to death so that he continues to race because they're lining their pockets. There's no other way. I mean, I saw a performance by Bill Burton on Meet the Press Daily that I just found fascinating. Why is this guy running for president? Well, he's really good with his family. What? Are you serious? They rolled out some line that was to the effect of it was something like we need to risk the possibilities for new possibilities, or risk the imagination for new possibilities. It's not even good pablum, right? And this is what is fundamentally broken with our politics. First order is that money has distorted the marketplace of politics. Political power is diminished by the massive amounts of concentrated money that we have in our society today.
Well, of course. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is one of the, and I just don't, the critique here that, somehow or another, the two parties are just, they're having these ridiculous squabbles, and it's just all so simple. It's just so easy. All we need is some guy who ran a business, because that's, of course, exactly the same as running the government, which I really would have thought after 2 years of Donald Trump, nobody was deluded enough to think that was true. And I'm not just talking about Trump here. Look at the other people in his cabinet. He said that he was going to hire all these fabulous, titans of industry to come in and really get things done. Look at Rex Tillerson. That guy ran ExxonMobil. I mean, that makes Starbucks look like, my corner grocery
like
store.
Like a coffee shop.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And ExxonMobil, that guy was obviously an extremely successful executive who, was unparalleled in his abilities to run a big corporation. He got into the State Department and completely failed on every level. He raised the place. He absolutely, remember all those people who were quitting and everybody was showing up at work and didn't know what they were. They assigned all the experienced people to go and do filing, and it was insane. And I mean, even though Tillerson is now sort of remembers, well, he was one of the grown-ups. Yeah, he was. It didn't work out well. Those grown-ups from the private sector. I mean, look at Wilbur Ross. The guy's a screaming crook. He's completely lining his pockets while he's in office. He appears to me to be a little bit past his prime. But even if he were in his prime, this guy was a big investor banker type who took over major industries and then turned them around and sold them and did all that. I mean, and look at him. I mean, he is complete. He goes on TV and he has enough, has no political acumen whatsoever. So, I mean, this idea of that is completely ridiculous, and the disappointing, of course, these political consultants are looking for work, but geez.
Yes, it's pretty cynical. We've got to take a break. Digby, if you'll join me in the next hour, we got a lot more to talk about. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio.